The Ice Age was a world both magnificent and merciless, a sprawling frozen wilderness that stretched as far as the eye could see. Towering glaciers reflected a pale, ghostly light across vast plains dusted in snow, while jagged mountains loomed like silent sentinels, guarding the secrets of a harsh, unforgiving climate. In this frozen world, life was fragile, precarious, and constantly under threat. Cavemen, small in stature but vast in resilience, faced a daily struggle against biting winds, snowstorms that could obscure paths and landmarks, and the ever-present risk of predatory animals. Every day brought the tension of survival, where the warmth of fire and the shelter of a cave meant the difference between life and death, and a single misstep could plunge a tribe into catastrophe. The landscape itself dictated the rhythm of life. Trees, stripped bare by ice and frost, stood as stark silhouettes against a gray sky. Rivers, once flowing freely, were now frozen over, creating both pathways and traps for the unwary. Snow, in its many forms, became both a guide and a threat. Soft powder could conceal dangerous ice patches or predator tracks, while hard-crusted layers might allow hunters to approach prey silently or betray their own steps with a loud, telling crunch. Cavemen had to interpret every subtle change in the environment, developing a keen awareness of the world that modern humans can hardly imagine. Their senses became finely tuned instruments, capable of detecting distant echoes, the faintest scent carried on the cold wind, and the minute disturbances in snow that signaled danger or opportunity. Amidst this frozen expanse, daily life revolved around the core necessities of warmth, food, and shelter. Fire was not merely a convenience, but a lifeline. The flickering flames of a hearth represented safety against freezing temperatures, nocturnal predators, and the despair of isolation. Similarly, caves and rudimentary shelters provided critical refuge, guarding against snow-laden winds and blizzards that could sweep across the plains with little warning. The cavemen's ingenuity in creating these shelters, layering animal hides for insulation, and organizing communal living spaces revealed a sophisticated understanding of survival that belied their simple tools. Life, in this world, demanded constant vigilance and inventive thinking. The tension between the overwhelming power of nature and human determination set the stage for a narrative of resilience and adaptation. There were moments of terrifying exposure, where one wrong step in a snow-covered crevasse or misjudged path could result in death, contrasting sharply with rare moments of security around a warm fire, sharing stories and forging bonds. These contrasts between cold and warmth, fear and safety, isolation and community defined the cavemen's existence. They were creatures not merely enduring their environment, but learning from it, adapting to it, and slowly mastering the elements that threatened their very survival. In this frozen world, survival required not just physical strength, but intelligence, foresight, and a deeply ingrained sense of caution. Each day was a negotiation with the environment, with the cavemen constantly interpreting signals from the land, animals, and weather. The snow itself became a silent language, the wind a messenger of approaching storms, and the forest a repository of both danger and sustenance. The stakes were high. Hunger, injury, and exposure were ever-present specters, and yet these early humans persevered, crafting strategies and traditions that would carry their species forward. Their story is one of courage, creativity, and the relentless pursuit of life amid a world that seemed determined to snuff it out. By exploring the world of ice and shadow in vivid detail, we begin to understand the challenges these early humans faced, as well as the remarkable ingenuity that allowed them not merely to survive, but to thrive in one of the harshest climates Earth has ever known. Their existence was defined by contrast, the beauty and brutality of nature, the fragility of life, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. This introduction sets the stage for a journey into the daily trials, ingenious solutions, and resilient communities of Ice Age humans, revealing a story of survival that continues to captivate and inspire even thousands of years later. For cavemen, the snow was far more than a simple covering of the earth. It was a living, speaking part of their environment. Every footprint, every crack, every shift in texture conveyed crucial information about what lay ahead. The crunch beneath a foot could signal safety when firm, or hidden danger when brittle or unstable. By carefully observing these subtle cues, early humans learned to interpret the snow's language, transforming the frozen landscape from an indiscriminate threat into a complex map of survival. Each step required attention, patience, and an understanding that one misjudged patch could mean a fall, injury, or an encounter with a lurking predator. Cavemen developed an extraordinary sensitivity to sound, turning the ordinary noise of snow into a diagnostic tool. A crisp, hollow crunch might indicate thin ice covering a hidden crevice, while a softer, powdery texture could suggest deep drifts that would slow movement and exhaust hunters. They would listen intently, not just for the way their own steps sounded, but for the distant signals of animal tracks, shifting snow from a predator's passage, or the subtle collapse of an overhanging ice ledge. In a frozen world where visibility was often limited by snowfall or blinding glare, the snow's sound became as important as sight, and the ability to interpret correctly could decide life or death. The patterns of snow also revealed information about the weather itself. Cavemen noted how freshly fallen powder indicated calm conditions, while crusted or wind-sculpted drift suggested recent storms or freezing gales. Frost that glimmered in the morning light could hint at rapidly dropping temperatures overnight, guiding hunters and gatherers to adjust their routes and strategies. These environmental readings were critical not only for immediate safety, but also for long-term planning: when to hunt, when to seek shelter, and when to move toward more favorable terrain. The snow became a trusted advisor, offering silent guidance to those who had learned its language. Animals, too, left vital information in the snow. Tracks of deer, mammoths, or smaller creatures were carefully studied to predict their movements and to plan ambushes or follow herds for sustenance. The spacing, depth, and direction of these tracks told a story: which way a herd had traveled, whether a predator might be nearby, or how fresh a kill could be. Cavemen could estimate the size and speed of the animal, and even infer the type of terrain they would encounter next. This knowledge was essential for successful hunting and survival, demonstrating a sophisticated understanding of both the environment and its inhabitants. Reading snow required patience, practice, and an acute awareness of subtle differences. What looked like a uniform blanket of white could conceal dangers beneath, from hidden ice patches to frozen river edges. Misreading these cues could result in injury, separation from the group, or vulnerability to predators. In contrast, those who mastered this silent communication gained a decisive advantage, able to move with caution, locate food, and navigate the treacherous winter landscape with confidence. In this way, the snow served as both a test and a teacher, rewarding attentiveness and punishing carelessness, shaping the cavemen into perceptive, adaptable survivors. Through careful observation and experience, cavemen transformed a seemingly hostile winter environment into a network of information, using snow to read both the land and the creatures inhabiting it. The crunch beneath their feet, the subtle shifts of frozen surfaces, and the delicate shadows cast by snowdrifts became essential tools in the ongoing battle for survival. This silent dialogue with the ice and snow exemplifies the deep connection between early humans and their environment, a relationship built on observation, interpretation, and respect. By mastering these subtle cues, cavemen were not just surviving. They were learning to anticipate the world around them, turning the perils of winter into a language they could understand, a guide they could trust, and a silent ally in their fight against the cold. Winter hunting was a delicate balance of patience, skill, and intuition, demanding that cavemen move with calculated precision across a frozen and unforgiving landscape. The snow-covered terrain, while treacherous, offered unique advantages for those who understood its patterns. Tracks were more visible, The movements of animals could be predicted by their footprints, and the frozen ground made the approach quieter in some areas. Yet, each step was a risk. A brittle crust could give way, an icy slope could betray a hunter's position, or the crunch of snow underfoot could alert prey to the hunter's presence. Success depended not only on strength or weaponry, but on the ability to read the land and its silent signals, transforming the cold into a strategic ally. Early humans relied heavily on acute observation to anticipate prey behavior. They studied the trails left behind by deer, reindeer, and other large mammals, noting the depth, spacing, and direction of footprints. Subtle clues revealed whether an animal was traveling quickly or grazing, alone or in a herd. Hunters would often follow fresh tracks for hours, moving slowly to avoid breaking the fragile crust or disturbing hidden snowdrifts. The ability to predict animal movement based on these signs was a learned skill, passed down through generations. One misread trail could waste precious energy, expose the hunter to danger, or force the abandonment of a hunt, highlighting the constant tension between patience and urgency in survival. Weaponry was adapted to winter conditions, where frozen rivers and icy landscapes required innovation. Spears, often tipped with sharpened stone or bone, were used with careful calculation, thrown at precise angles to pierce deep into an animal's flesh. Slings and clubs allowed for long-range attacks when stealth was not possible. Hunters learned to exploit the snow itself, driving prey across crusted areas that could not support heavy weight, or into narrow paths where ambush was possible. The environment became a partner in the hunt, with snow, ice, and frozen terrain all shaping strategy. These methods highlight not only physical ingenuity, but the mental adaptability of early humans, as every landscape demanded a tailored approach. Hunting in winter was fraught with constant tension. The cold drained energy, and frostbite or hypothermia loomed as silent threats. Predators, too, were ever present, observing both hunter and hunted. Wolves and saber-toothed cats could stalk the same prey, forcing cavemen to remain vigilant while also tracking their quarry. The hunt was therefore not just a pursuit of food, but a psychological exercise, testing focus, endurance, and emotional control. Every decision mattered, whether to take a risk for a larger animal, how long to follow a trail, or when to retreat and seek safety. The margin between success and failure was narrow, emphasizing the raw stakes of winter survival. Preparation and teamwork often determined the outcome of hunts. Small groups would coordinate, surrounding herds or creating natural traps using snowdrifts and frozen terrain features. One member might flush prey from cover while another waited in ambush, demonstrating an early understanding of cooperation and strategy. These collective efforts reinforced social bonds, provided shared knowledge, and increased the probability of successful kill. In a harsh winter environment, the ability to work together could mean the difference between a full stomach and starvation. The aftermath of a successful hunt was equally critical. Preserving meat in freezing conditions required skill and foresight. Fresh kills were processed quickly, with some portions buried in snow or ice to slow decay, while others were shared immediately to ensure sustenance for the group. This practice highlights the interconnected nature of hunting, environmental awareness, and communal survival strategies. The hunt extended beyond the immediate act of killing. It encompassed planning, tracking, execution, and preservation, each phase vital for enduring the unforgiving winter months. In essence, winter hunting was a profound demonstration of adaptation. Cavemen had to merge physical skill, environmental knowledge, and psychological resilience to secure their next meal. The frozen world, at first glance hostile and relentless, became a complex arena where survival depended on observation, ingenuity, and cooperation. Every tracked footprint, every crunch in the snow, and every calculated throw of a spear was a testament to human intelligence and determination. Through these hunts, early humans not only fed their bodies, but also honed the skills, instincts, and social structures that would sustain their species for millennia. By mastering the art of tracking and hunting amid snow and ice, cavemen transformed a brutal landscape into a source of opportunity and life. They learned to read the subtle signs in the environment, anticipate the movements of prey, and employ both tools and teamwork to survive. The frozen plains, once perceived as obstacles, became a canvas for human ingenuity, patience, and courage, reflecting the remarkable adaptability of our ancestors. Each successful hunt was a delicate dance with nature, a confrontation with danger, and a triumph over the cold, solidifying the foundation for human endurance in one of the planet's harshest climates. In the heart of the Ice Age, fire was more than a source of warmth. It was the thin line separating life from death, a flickering barrier against the relentless cold and the predators that prowled the frozen night. Cavemen quickly learned that mastery of fire could transform the hostile, icy wilderness into a livable, navigable world. Flames provided physical warmth, a place to cook food, and a sense of psychological security in a time when survival was constantly under threat. The glow of fire illuminated the darkness, repelling not only the literal shadows of night, but also the figurative shadows of fear and despair. To control fire was to wield a tool capable of reshaping the environment, protecting the group, and asserting dominance over the elements that otherwise dictated the rhythms of life. The creation of fire itself was no trivial task. Early humans developed ingenious methods using friction, sparks, and flint stones, learning through trial, error, and observation. They discovered that certain types of wood could catch flame more easily, that dry moss or lichens served as tinder, and that carefully positioned stones could protect the fire from wind and cold. Every spark had to be nurtured, every ember coaxed to grow, and one misstep could result in the loss of this fragile source of survival. The process demanded patience, dexterity, and a deep understanding of materials, a mastery that distinguished humans from other creatures struggling to endure the same harsh winter landscape. Fire, fragile yet powerful, became a symbol of human ingenuity and resilience, a technology that could literally turn the tide between survival and death. Beyond its practical applications, fire shaped the social and psychological lives of cavemen. Gathering around the hearth, early humans shared warmth, stories, and knowledge, forging bonds that strengthened group cohesion and resilience. In the freezing nights, the communal flame became a center of life, a place where elders could teach survival skills and where myths, rituals, and histories were passed down orally. The crackle of the flames provided comfort against the howling wind outside, transforming fear into a sense of safety and belonging. In this way, fire was not merely a survival tool. It was a cultural cornerstone, shaping the earliest forms of human society and communication. The strategic use of fire extended to hunting and defense. Torches allowed groups to drive prey into traps or disorient nocturnal predators, while fire rings and control burns could create barriers that kept dangerous animals at bay. Early humans understood that fire was a multifunctional resource, one that could manipulate the environment in ways that pure strength or cunning alone could not. By observing animal behavior around flames, cavemen could also learn which creatures were deterred, which were attracted, and how to safely approach prey or defend their territory. Fire became a medium through which humans could assert control over the natural world, compensating for physical limitations with intelligence and foresight. Fire also played a crucial role in nourishment. Cooking meat, roots, and other foraged foods not only made them more digestible, but also reduced pathogens and improved caloric intake, which was critical in a winter environment where energy demands were high. The warmth from cooked food provided both sustenance and comfort, reinforcing the importance of fire in daily survival. The act of cooking became a ritual, a structured routine that brought organization to otherwise chaotic days of hunting and foraging. Through fire, humans were able to preserve not just their physical health, but also their mental well-being, finding a sense of stability amid the unpredictability of the Ice Age. The psychological impact of fire cannot be overstated. Nights were long, dark, and treacherous, and the cold could sap both body and spirit. Flames provided a focal point, a beacon of hope in a world dominated by frost and shadow. The constant presence of fire reduced anxiety, encouraged social interaction, and fostered a sense of security that allowed early humans to think, plan, and innovate even in the harshest conditions. It became a tool for mental survival as much as physical, enabling the development of strategies, communication, and traditions that would carry forward into successive generations. Despite its importance, fire was never guaranteed. Natural sources were unreliable, and man-made methods required skill and resourcefulness. A sudden storm, damp wood, or shifting winds could extinguish the flames, plunging a group back into exposure and vulnerability. This precarious relationship with fire underscored the fragility of human life in the Ice Age, emphasizing the continual balance between mastery and dependence. Every hearth was a triumph over nature's indifference. Every maintained flame a testament to human perseverance, knowledge, and adaptability. Through fire, cavemen redefined their relationship with the environment. It was a tool that offered warmth, protection, sustenance, and social cohesion, a remarkable convergence of practical utility and symbolic significance. By learning to create, sustain, and strategically deploy fire, early humans gained a decisive advantage over the challenges of winter survival. The mastery of this elemental force enabled not just survival, but the formation of early communities, the codification of knowledge, and the development of a culture attuned to both the threats and gifts of their frozen world. Fire illuminated the darkness, transformed fear into opportunity, and became one of the earliest markers of human ingenuity and resilience in the face of nature's harshest trials. In the relentless grip of the Ice Age, shelter was not a mere convenience. It was an indispensable element of survival. Cavemen faced temperatures that could plunge well below freezing, with icy winds cutting across the landscape like sharpened blades. Snowstorms could arrive with little warning, burying everything in white silence, and blizzards made even short journeys perilous. In such conditions, a secure shelter was the difference between life and death. Early humans quickly learned to seek refuge in natural formations like caves and rock overhangs, but they also innovated, creating temporary structures from branches, animal hides, and snow to withstand the biting cold. These shelters became sanctuaries, not only protecting the body, but also providing a psychological haven where fear could be tempered by warmth and communal safety. Caves were the most dependable form of refuge. Their naturally insulated interiors provided protection from wind, snow, and predators. Cavemen often chose locations strategically, favoring sites near water sources or hunting grounds, and entrances that were defensible against larger predators. Inside these rocky sanctuaries, families would arrange their living space to maximize warmth, placing fires at the center and layering animal skins on the floors and walls. These caves were not merely shelters. They were early laboratories of spatial awareness and survival strategy, with a placement of fire, the arrangement of sleeping areas, and the storage of food demonstrated a sophisticated understanding of both the environment and human needs. When caves were unavailable or insufficient, early humans crafted temporary shelters from available materials. Branches, twigs, and bones could be woven into frameworks, then covered with hides, furs, or layers of snow to provide insulation. The design often depended on local resources, with ingenuity dictating structure and stability. Some shelters were low and dome-shaped to retain heat, while others were elongated to accommodate larger family groups. The placement of these shelters often took advantage of natural windbreaks, sun exposure, or terrain elevation. These constructions reflect an intimate knowledge of materials, physics, and environmental dynamics, demonstrating that survival depended not only on raw strength, but also on intelligence and foresight. Insulation was critical in the design of winter shelters. Cavemen collected layers of moss, grass, and leaves to line floors, reducing direct contact with frozen ground and preventing heat loss. Animal hides were carefully chosen and treated to maximize warmth and longevity. By understanding which materials retained heat best, they created living spaces capable of protecting inhabitants even during severe storms. The contrast between the bitter cold outside and the relatively stable, warm environment inside a shelter highlights the remarkable adaptability of early humans. Their ability to manipulate surroundings to create habitable spaces is a testament to the resourcefulness that allowed them to endure harsh winters. Shelters also provided protection from predators, which were a constant threat during winter months. Wolves, bears, and large cats prowled the frozen landscape, drawn to human activity and the scent of food. Cavemen used structural features such as narrow entrances, elevated platforms, or fire placement to deter predators, creating a controlled environment where the family could rest with reduced risk. In this way, the shelter served as both a physical barrier and a psychological safeguard, allowing humans to conserve energy, sleep, and plan for survival strategies without the constant pressure of external threats. The design of shelters, therefore, intertwined safety, warmth, and strategic thinking, demonstrating a holistic approach to survival. Communal living was central to shelter use. Families or small groups would share a single structure, pooling warmth and resources. This collective approach not only improved physical survival, but also reinforced social bonds, cooperation, and communication. Elders could oversee safety, teach younger members survival skills, and maintain organization within a group. The interaction around a fire or within the insulated walls of a shelter fostered the exchange of knowledge, traditions, and early cultural practices. In this sense, shelters were more than physical constructs. They were spaces where community life flourished, even in the midst of one of the harshest climates Earth has ever known. Winter storms tested the durability of shelters. Heavy snowfall, strong winds, and ice accumulation could damage or collapse structures, forcing inhabitants to repair, reinforce, or relocate. Cavemen had to constantly monitor their environment, adapt construction techniques, and anticipate weather patterns. This constant interaction with nature sharpened observational skills and encouraged innovation. Each winter brought new lessons, shaping the methods and materials used for future shelters. The process was iterative, combining trial and error with accumulated knowledge to ensure the survival of the group through successive seasons. Shelters also played a key role in the organization of daily life. Within these protected spaces, early humans could store food safely, prepare hides, craft tools, and plan hunting strategies. The interior of a well-constructed shelter became a hub of activity, a controlled microenvironment where efficiency, safety, and comfort converged. This control over immediate surroundings provided a psychological boost, offering a sense of mastery over the otherwise unpredictable and threatening landscape. The shelter was a domain where humans could exert influence over nature, demonstrating the emergence of strategic thinking and long-term planning in response to environmental challenges. In essence, shelter was the foundation of winter survival. It allowed cavemen to endure temperatures that would otherwise be fatal, protected them from predators, and served as a center for social life and cultural transmission. Every cave, hide-covered hut, or snow-walled structure reflected observation, experimentation, and ingenuity. The contrast between the hostile external world and the controlled interior of shelter embodies the triumph of human adaptability. Through these refuges, cavemen transformed a landscape of ice and wind into a livable environment, ensuring that life could persist, knowledge could be preserved, and communities could thrive despite the relentless challenges of the Ice Age. Shelter, then, was more than protection. It was a statement of survival, intelligence, and foresight. Each structure embodied a deep understanding of materials, climate, and human needs, reflecting a sophisticated interplay between physical necessity and cultural practice. In the harsh reality of Ice Age winters, these constructed refuges were indispensable lifelines, turning the threat of nature into a navigable, manageable environment. The ingenuity displayed in shelter building illustrates the remarkable adaptability of early humans, who transformed frozen landscapes into spaces of safety, warmth, and communal life. In the relentless cold of the Ice Age, clothing was far more than a matter of comfort. It was a matter of survival. Temperatures could plunge to lethal lows, with wind chill and snow making exposed skin vulnerable to frostbite within minutes. Early humans quickly learned that protecting the body was essential, and over generations, they developed ingenious methods to create clothing that could shield them from the harshest winter conditions. Animal hides, furs, and layered garments became not only functional, but a critical lifeline, allowing humans to maintain mobility, hunt effectively, and survive where unprotected individuals would perish. The right combination of materials, thickness, and layering could mean the difference between enduring the cold and succumbing to it, emphasizing the vital intersection of observation, experimentation, and necessity. Cavemen relied primarily on animal skins and furs, which provided natural insulation. They selected hides from creatures well adapted to cold climates: reindeer, mammoths, and other fur-bearing animals, whose pelts offered both warmth and durability. These skins were carefully prepared, scraped clean, and sometimes softened or treated with natural oils to increase flexibility and reduce moisture absorption. The process of preparing clothing was labor-intensive, but it transformed raw hides into protective layers capable of shielding against wind, snow, and frost. Even the smallest piece of clothing, like gloves or head coverings, played a crucial role in protecting extremities most susceptible to freezing temperatures. Layering was a key innovation. Cavemen learned to wear multiple layers of furs, with inner layers providing insulation and outer layers acting as windbreaks or moisture barriers. This combination created a microclimate around the body, trapping heat while allowing some breathability to prevent overheating during strenuous activity. Skilled hunters adjusted layers according to activity level and weather conditions, balancing warmth with mobility. This early understanding of layering demonstrates a sophisticated adaptation to the environment, reflecting the ability to observe, test, and refine practical solutions in response to survival pressures. Beyond functionality, clothing served as a psychological buffer against the relentless winter. Wearing warm, protective garments gave early humans confidence and a sense of security, allowing them to venture further into dangerous terrain, hunt more effectively, and maintain social and communal activities despite harsh conditions. The act of dressing for winter was a ritual in itself, a deliberate preparation for the challenges ahead. In a world where exposure could be fatal, clothing transformed fear into empowerment, providing both physical protection and mental reassurance. The design of garments was influenced by practical observation. Cavemen noted how animals adapted to cold climates, mimicking natural strategies such as layering fur or covering vital areas like the head, hands, and feet. Clothing often included fur-lined boots or moccasins to prevent heat loss from the extremities, hoods or caps to protect the head and ears, and wrap pelts to shield the torso. Even rudimentary belts or bindings were used to secure layers tightly, preventing drafts and maximizing warmth. These innovations illustrate a remarkable understanding of both physiology and environmental interaction, demonstrating that survival depended on thoughtful adaptation as much as physical endurance. Preparing and maintaining clothing required continuous attention. Moisture from snow, rain, or sweat could reduce the effectiveness of fur, leading to dangerous heat loss. Cavemen developed strategies to dry, repair, and treat garments, ensuring that protective layers remained functional throughout the harsh winter. This constant care highlights the labor and knowledge involved in winter survival, as clothing was not a disposable commodity, but a vital, life-preserving tool. Each patch, repair, or improvised accessory represented a response to environmental challenges and a commitment to sustaining life in extreme conditions. Clothing also played a role in social and communal organization. Families and small groups would share knowledge about preparation, storage, and maintenance of garments, passing down techniques from generation to generation. Elders taught younger members how to identify the best materials, how to construct layered clothing, and how to balance warmth with mobility. This exchange of knowledge strengthened social cohesion and ensured that survival strategies were preserved, reinforcing the interplay between practical skills and community bonds. In this sense, clothing was both a physical necessity and a cultural artifact, embodying the ingenuity and shared wisdom of early humans. The psychological impact of effective clothing cannot be overstated. Properly dressed, cavemen could hunt further from shelters, spend extended periods outdoors, and engage in complex activities like tool-making, tracking, and constructing shelters. The sense of security provided by reliable garments fostered confidence, allowing humans to explore, adapt, and innovate even in the most hostile winter landscapes. In contrast, inadequate clothing amplified fear, limited movement, and increased the risk of injury or death, underscoring the intimate connection between survival, observation, and innovation. Clothing, therefore, was both a shield and a statement of ingenuity. It reflected the ability of early humans to interpret their environment, harness natural resources, and transform raw materials into life-preserving tools. Every fur-lined boot, hood, or wrapped pelt represented knowledge gained through observation, trial, and adaptation, a tangible manifestation of human resilience. In the frozen expanses of the Ice Age, these layers were far more than garments. They were lifelines, protecting the body, enabling survival, and providing the foundation for all other forms of adaptation. By mastering clothing, cavemen demonstrated a profound understanding of the relationship between the human body and the environment. They converted danger into opportunity, vulnerability into protection, and exposure into controlled endurance. The combination of materials, layering, and careful preparation allowed them to navigate snowfields, hunt in blizzards, and endure the coldest nights. In essence, clothing became a physical extension of human intelligence, a layered armor against the extremes of winter, and a testament to the ingenuity and foresight that defined Ice Age survival. Surviving the Ice Age required more than warmth, food, and shelter. It demanded extraordinary mental resilience. The harsh winters tested not only the body but the mind, as cavemen faced long nights, biting winds, and the constant threat of scarcity. Darkness fell early, often plunging the landscape into an unbroken stretch of cold and shadow. Isolation, fatigue, and hunger could easily lead to despair, yet early humans developed strategies to maintain focus, morale, and cohesion. The mental fortitude required to endure such conditions was as crucial as physical strength, highlighting the intricate connection between psychology and survival. The prolonged exposure to extreme cold created both physiological and psychological stress. Frostbite, hunger, and exhaustion could weaken not only the body but also resolve, making decision-making more difficult and increasing vulnerability to predators. Cavemen learned to anticipate these mental pressures, relying on routines, social support, and environmental cues to stabilize their mindset. Daily rituals such as tending fires, preparing food, and maintaining shelters provided structure amid uncertainty, reducing anxiety and fostering a sense of control. This regularity was essential, as the predictability of small tasks counterbalanced the unpredictability of the external environment, creating a mental framework that supported endurance. Group cohesion played a critical role in sustaining morale. Cavemen often lived in small tribes or family units, relying on collective action for warmth, hunting, and protection. Social bonds were reinforced through shared responsibilities, storytelling, and communal activities around the fire. Elders and experienced members provided guidance and reassurance, while younger individuals contributed energy and assistance. This division of roles created a balance of dependency and contribution, ensuring that the psychological burden of survival was distributed rather than borne by a single individual. By fostering trust and mutual reliance, early humans strengthened their capacity to withstand the mental challenges of winter. Fear was a constant presence, but it was also a tool for survival. The awareness of predators, treacherous ice, and sudden storms kept cavemen vigilant, teaching them to respect their environment while avoiding reckless behavior. At the same time, excessive fear could be paralyzing, making it essential to cultivate courage and focus. Storytelling, rituals, and symbolic practices helped manage these emotions, transforming anxiety into preparedness and vigilance. Myths about animals, spirits, or the elements may have originated as coping mechanisms, providing explanations for dangers that were otherwise incomprehensible and offering a psychological framework to manage uncertainty. Sleep, though essential for physical and mental health, was a constant challenge in a freezing environment. Cavemen had to balance the need for rest with the need for vigilance. Snowstorms, shifting ice, and nocturnal predators made uninterrupted sleep impossible, requiring strategies to maximize recovery while minimizing risk. Some may have taken turns keeping watch, while others used the warmth of the fire or communal body heat to protect sleeping members. Even dreams could be influenced by stress, hunger, and cold, shaping perceptions and decisions during waking hours. Mastery over sleep patterns and mental alertness became a critical survival skill, illustrating the deep integration of psychology and environmental awareness. The mental discipline required for hunting and foraging in winter was equally demanding. Tracking prey over frozen landscapes involved patience, concentration, and the ability to suppress fear. Hunters needed to control adrenaline, stay silent, and carefully interpret subtle environmental cues. A single lapse in attention, a misread snow track, a loud step, or misjudged approach could lead to failure or danger. Maintaining focus under these conditions was a learned skill, blending experience, observation, and instinct. Over time, these practices shaped not only survival strategies, but also the cognitive development of early humans, enhancing memory, attention, and problem-solving abilities under stress. Coping with scarcity was another major psychological challenge. Food shortages could induce anxiety, competition, or even conflict within groups. Cavemen mitigated these pressures through planning, cooperation, and rationing. Stored food, preserved meat, and shared resources created a buffer against the worst extremes of hunger. Ritualized sharing reinforced social bonds and reduced tension, while the anticipation of hunting or foraging trips provided hope and focus. By managing both physical needs and emotional responses, early humans were able to navigate the delicate balance between immediate survival and long-term sustainability. Isolation and monotony of winter also demanded creativity and imagination to maintain morale. Storytelling, carving, symbolic markings, and rituals were not merely cultural expressions, but vital tools for mental endurance. Sharing tales of hunts, animals, and ancestors provided continuity, a sense of purpose, and an understanding of the broader world. These activities transformed bleak nights into opportunities for learning, bonding, and reinforcing communal identity. By turning mental engagement into a survival strategy, Cavemen demonstrated that endurance was as much a product of cognition as of physical adaptation. The environment itself influenced psychological strategies. Cavemen observed changes in weather, animal behavior, and snow conditions to anticipate challenges and plan activities. Recognizing patterns in nature reduced uncertainty and fostered confidence. They learned to manage risk, weighing potential rewards against dangers, and developed resilience through repeated exposure to adversity. The integration of environmental awareness with mental preparedness created a feedback loop. The more they understood their world, the more effectively they could maintain focus, calm, and adaptive responses under pressure. Ultimately, the psychology of winter survival highlights the interplay of fear, hope, focus, and social cohesion. Cavemen had to manage stress, conserve mental energy, and cultivate strategies that maintained both individual and group resilience. The frozen world was as much a test to the mind as of the body, demanding alertness, creativity, and emotional regulation. By mastering their mental environment, early humans enhanced their physical survival, reinforced social bonds, and laid the groundwork for cultural and cognitive evolution. Through these psychological adaptations, cavemen transformed the Ice Age from a period of unrelenting terror into a realm where preparation, intelligence, and social cooperation could secure survival. The frozen mind, vigilant, adaptive, and resilient, became as vital as fire, shelter, or clothing. Understanding and managing mental challenges allowed early humans to endure extremes that would have overwhelmed less prepared species. The triumph of human cognition in the face of environmental adversity exemplifies a critical component of survival, demonstrating that the mind, as much as the body, was a powerful tool against the relentless cold. In the frozen expanse of the Ice Age, survival was rarely a solitary endeavor. Cavemen depended on family and social networks to endure the relentless cold, hunt efficiently, and protect themselves from predators. Small groups, often composed of extended family units, formed the foundation of survival, pooling skills, knowledge, and resources to navigate the harsh winter environment. Cooperation was essential. No individual could hope to withstand the long nights, scarcity of food, or dangers of the frozen wilderness alone. Social bonds not only provided practical support, but also shaped early human behavior, fostering communication, trust, and a sense of shared purpose that became critical for enduring extreme conditions. Daily life in these groups revolved around interdependence. Hunting parties required coordination, as members needed to communicate silently while stalking prey across snowfields. Those who stayed behind maintained shelters, prepared food, and tended fires, ensuring that the community remained safe and nourished. Each role was vital, and the failure of one individual could jeopardize the entire group. Through this interdependence, early humans cultivated a profound awareness of responsibility and consequence, understanding that survival depended as much on collective effort as on personal skill. The necessity of collaboration also nurtured empathy and social intelligence, as recognizing and responding to the needs of others became a matter of life and death. The emotional aspects of social bonding were equally crucial. Shared experiences of fear, hunger, and hardship strengthened relationships, creating trust and loyalty within the group. Moments of success, such as a successful hunt or the safe arrival at a shelter, reinforced communal pride and resilience. Conversely, conflict or mistrust could fracture cohesion, leaving individuals vulnerable to both environmental dangers and internal strife. These dynamics highlight that social bonds were not merely cultural constructs, but practical survival tools, with emotional intelligence playing a critical role in managing tension, coordinating action, and maintaining group stability in a challenging world. Care for the young and the elderly formed another cornerstone of survival. Children, though small and vulnerable, were essential to the continuity of the group, while elders carried knowledge of hunting, tracking, and survival strategies. Protecting these members required vigilance, teaching, and shared responsibility. Adults organized schedules and tasks around the needs of the most vulnerable, ensuring that each generation could survive long enough to learn the skills necessary for winter survival. These protective behaviors reinforced the importance of family units and intergenerational knowledge, highlighting that survival depended on both immediate action and long-term planning. Rituals and communal practices further reinforced social cohesion. Sharing food around the fire, telling stories of hunts, and teaching skills to younger members were more than functional. They cultivated a sense of identity and belonging. Even in the harshest conditions, these rituals provided psychological stability, offering moments of comfort and continuity amidst uncertainty. Social bonds were both practical and symbolic, reinforcing the notion that human survival is as much about community as it is about individual effort. The fire, the shelter, and the shared meals became focal points where trust, loyalty, and knowledge converged, enabling humans to endure conditions that would have overwhelmed solitary individuals. Hunting and foraging strategies were deeply influenced by social organization. Groups developed coordinated plans, dividing labor efficiently to maximize success. Some members would track animals while others prepared ambushes, while smaller subgroups would maintain shelters and guard food stores. The ability to synchronize action across multiple individuals required communication skills, planning, and an understanding of each member's strengths and weaknesses. Social cohesion thus enhanced not only survival efficiency, but also strategic sophistication, allowing early humans to navigate complex challenges that would have been impossible alone. Winter migration patterns often reflected social needs. Groups would move collectively to follow herds, access water sources, or reach more sheltered locations. The choice to migrate or remain depended on communal decision-making, balancing the risks of exposure with the potential rewards of better resources. Those who maintained strong social bonds were better able to execute these movements safely, as trust and coordination reduced the likelihood of separation, injury, or predation. The frozen landscape demanded collective judgment, and social intelligence became as vital as physical strength or environmental knowledge in ensuring survival. Even leisure, limited though it may have been, contributed to the stability of social bonds. Storytelling, symbolic art, and the sharing of experiences around the fire helped maintain morale, transmitting knowledge while also creating a shared sense of culture. Humor, games, and playful interactions among children and adults alike fostered cohesion, reinforcing trust and cooperation. These moments of connection allowed humans to manage stress, reduce tension, and strengthen the group's psychological resilience, key factors in enduring long, unforgiving winters. In essence, family and social bonds are the backbone of Ice Age survival. They allowed early humans to share risks, distribute labor, and create a safety net that extended beyond the individual. Without these connections, the extreme conditions of winter would have proven overwhelming. Yet through cooperation, empathy, and shared purpose, cavemen transformed vulnerability into resilience. Survival in numbers was not just a strategy. It was a fundamental aspect of what it meant to be human in a world governed by ice, snow, and constant danger. Through these social structures, early humans demonstrated that survival depended as much on emotional intelligence, trust, and cooperation as it did on tools, fire, or clothing. Families and tribes became adaptive units, capable of responding to environmental challenges with ingenuity and coordination. By leveraging social bonds, early humans navigated one of Earth's harshest climates, ensuring not only the survival of the individual, but also the continuity of knowledge, culture, and the species itself. In this way, the frozen world became a canvas upon which human cooperation and resilience could flourish, turning adversity into opportunity through the power of community. In the frozen expanse of the Ice Age, survival extended beyond the physical. It encompassed the spiritual and psychological realms as well. Cavemen developed rituals and beliefs to interpret, influence, and cope with the harsh realities of winter, creating a framework that blended practicality with imagination. These practices were rooted in observation of nature, the behavior of animals, and the unpredictable forces of weather. By invoking ritual, early humans sought to reduce uncertainty, protect their communities, and establish a sense of control in an environment that often seemed indifferent to their existence. Firelight, caves, and snow-laden landscapes became stages for ceremonies, symbolic gestures, and storytelling, transforming survival into a structured, meaningful experience. The winter months, in particular, inspired rituals aimed at protection and prosperity. Scarce food, freezing temperatures, and long nights demanded strategies not only for physical sustenance, but also for maintaining morale and unity. Ceremonies often centered around the hearth, the focal point of warmth and life, where families and tribes gathered to honor the spirits of the animals they hunted or the forces of nature that governed their survival. Through dance, chant, or the careful placement of symbolic objects, cavemen acknowledged the interconnectedness of life and environment, reinforcing communal bonds while seeking favor or guidance. The rituals served dual purposes: practical instruction in survival skills and a psychological shield against fear and uncertainty. Beliefs in supernatural forces may have arisen from the need to explain phenomena that were otherwise incomprehensible. Sudden snowstorms, avalanches, or the unpredictable movements of animal herds presented dangers beyond human control. By attributing these events to spirits, gods, or other mystical entities, early humans created narratives that made sense of chaos and empowered them with the illusion or reality of influence. Offerings, chants, and symbolic carvings served as tools to negotiate with these forces, blending early religion with survival strategy. The act of ritual provided a sense of agency, reducing feelings of helplessness and reinforcing patterns of behavior that improved safety and resource management. Caves, with their dark interiors and echoing chambers, became sacred spaces for these winter rituals. Their walls were often adorned with primitive carvings or paintings depicting animals, hunting scenes, and abstract symbols. The repetition of ritual activities in such spaces created a shared history and cultural memory, allowing knowledge, strategies, and beliefs to be passed down across generations. Firelight enhanced the visual impact, casting flickering shadows that brought static images to life, transforming simple markings into immersive experiences. These ceremonial practices reinforced group cohesion, provided psychological stability, and allowed early humans to encode survival knowledge in symbolic form. Rituals were closely tied to the cycles of hunting and foraging. Successful hunts might be followed by ceremonies of thanks, while unsuccessful efforts could prompt rites aimed at appeasing spirits or learning from failure. Seasonal changes, observed carefully over years, guided the timing and nature of these practices. By aligning spiritual activity with environmental observation, cavemen ensured that rituals reinforced practical knowledge, creating a symbiotic relationship between belief and survival strategy. The repetition of these ceremonies fostered memory, discipline, and group coordination, making ritual an integral part of both cultural and physical adaptation. Winter rituals also emphasize protection from predators and natural hazards. Noise, fire placement, and the strategic positioning of objects or symbols were incorporated into ceremonies that aimed to ward off wolves, bears, or other dangerous animals. While some of these practices may have been symbolic, they often reinforced vigilance and awareness, ensuring that communities remained alert to environmental threats. In this way, rituals served as both psychological comfort and practical training, embedding survival behavior into a culturally resonant framework. Storytelling, a key component of rituals, allowed for the transmission of wisdom, history, and practical knowledge. Elders recounted past hunts, animal behavior, weather patterns, and lessons learned from previous winters, often dramatized or ritualized to enhance memory and engagement. These narratives provided context for the present, teaching younger members how to anticipate danger, identify resources, and cooperate effectively. In essence, storytelling transformed abstract knowledge into actionable guidance, using drama and ritual to reinforce skills that were essential for survival. Symbolic objects and art also played a role in winter beliefs. Carved figures, painted animal depictions, and personal adornments may have functioned as talismans, teaching tools, or reminders of important environmental cues. By embedding practical knowledge into symbolic form, cavemen created a portable, durable repository of survival strategies that transcended individual memory. These artifacts bridge the gap between tangible survival and abstract cognition, demonstrating that early humans integrated intelligence, observation, and creativity in both physical and spiritual domains. Rituals and beliefs also fostered emotional resilience. Facing long, dark winters could induce despair or fear, and communal ceremonies provided moments of shared strength, hope, and encouragement. Chanting, drumming, or synchronized movement around the fire reinforced a sense of unity, allowing individuals to feel part of a larger, purposeful whole. These psychological benefits enhanced endurance, focus, and cooperation, underscoring that survival in extreme environments relied not just on physical skill, but on social and emotional intelligence. In summary, rituals and beliefs were essential components of winter survival. They provided frameworks for understanding and influencing the environment, reinforced social cohesion, transmitted practical knowledge, and nurtured emotional resilience. By blending observation, creativity, and symbolism, cavemen transformed the uncertainty and danger of winter into structured, meaningful experiences that enhanced both individual and group survival. These early practices reflect a profound recognition that survival is not solely a matter of body and fire, but also of mind, community, and spirit. Through rituals, ceremonies, and belief systems, early humans encoded survival strategies into culture, creating continuity, purpose, and psychological security in the harshest conditions. The frozen world, though dangerous and unpredictable, became a stage upon which human ingenuity, imagination, and social intelligence could thrive. In this way, rituals were far more than superstition. They were practical, emotional, and cognitive tools that shaped human evolution, community life, and the enduring story of survival in the Ice Age. Winter in the Ice Age was not only a battle against cold and scarcity. It was a constant struggle against predators and other environmental threats that lurked in the frozen wilderness. Cavemen were surrounded by creatures perfectly adapted to the harsh climate: wolves, saber-toothed cats, bears, and giant birds, all competing for the same limited resources. Every step outside a shelter carried the risk of a deadly encounter, and survival depended on vigilance, strategy, and an intimate understanding of animal behavior. The crunch of snow underfoot could betray a hunter to a lurking predator, while a misread track might lead directly into danger. Life and death were inseparable from awareness, and early humans had to cultivate both respect and caution in equal measure. Wolves, highly organized and intelligent, were among the most persistent threats. Traveling in packs, they could coordinate attacks on prey and occasionally target human settlements, especially when food was scarce. Cavemen learned to recognize wolf tracks, vocalizations, and hunting patterns, using these cues to avoid ambushes or set up defensive positions. Observation of pack behavior also informed hunting strategies, as humans could exploit the presence of predators to track prey or anticipate animal movements. Wolves exemplified the dual nature of winter threats: dangerous yet informative, forcing humans to sharpen senses, patience, and adaptability. Saber-toothed cats represented a more solitary, stealthy danger. Their massive size, speed, and predatory skill made them formidable hunters capable of striking with little warning. Cavemen had to be aware of scent trails, hiding spots, and the subtle signs of their presence, such as broken branches or disturbed snow. Unlike wolves, whose presence could sometimes be predicted by sound and tracks, these apex predators demanded constant vigilance and quick decision-making. Encounters with saber-toothed cats reinforced the importance of group safety, fire, and secure shelters, as well as the necessity of tools and weapons capable of defense or deterrence. Bears, particularly during winter, were a unique challenge. Hibernation reduced their activity, but early humans still needed to be cautious of those emerging from dens or encountering semi-active individuals. Bears could exploit human vulnerability during food collection or hunting, and their sheer strength made confrontation dangerous. Cavemen developed strategies to minimize risk, including selecting shelter locations away from known bear dens, maintaining noise to signal presence, and using fire to create barriers. Understanding bear behavior became essential, illustrating the importance of studying predators as a survival strategy rather than purely reacting to threats. Other dangers extended beyond animal predators. Thin ice, hidden crevices, and sudden blizzards posed constant environmental hazards. Snowdrifts could conceal ravines or frozen rivers, while storms could disorient travelers and separate groups. The unpredictability of weather compounded the threat posed by predators, requiring humans to remain alert, mobile, and adaptable. Observing changes in snow, wind, and animal behavior allowed early humans to anticipate risks, blending environmental intelligence with defensive tactics. The combination of natural and animal threats created a landscape where survival demanded both physical skill and strategic foresight. Tools and weapons were critical in managing these threats. Spears, clubs, and flint-tipped projectiles provided both hunting advantages and protection. Early humans learned to construct barriers, maintain fire perimeters, and position themselves strategically to minimize vulnerability. Tracking predators and understanding their habits allowed humans to exploit timing and terrain, gaining a tactical edge. These defensive strategies were not just reactive. They were proactive, demonstrating sophisticated planning and risk management in response to constant danger. The frozen world required early humans to treat every action as part of an ongoing negotiation with predators and environmental hazards alike. Group coordination amplified safety. Families and tribes used social organization to monitor risks, maintain sentries, and communicate silently during hunting or travel. Cooperative vigilance allowed individuals to take calculated risks while minimizing exposure to predators. Shared knowledge of animal behavior, shelter locations, and safe travel routes reinforced the importance of collective intelligence in survival. The frozen landscape highlighted the fact that isolation greatly increased danger, while strong social bonds could mitigate it, turning vulnerability into coordinated strength. Psychological awareness was another key factor in managing threats. Fear could sharpen focus, trigger survival instincts, and maintain caution, but excessive anxiety could paralyze or lead to mistakes. Cavemen learned to balance caution with confidence, using rituals, experience, and social reinforcement to manage stress. The ability to remain calm, anticipate danger, and make rapid decisions in response to environmental or predatory threats was as essential as physical protection or weapons. Mental resilience, combined with learned strategies, allowed early humans to navigate a landscape dominated by both visible and hidden dangers. Even indirect threats, such as scarcity of food or competition from other groups, shape behavior. Predators were part of a broader ecosystem in which survival depended on strategy, resource management, and social cooperation. Recognizing patterns in predator behavior could inform hunting strategies, timing, and movement, allowing humans to coexist with or avoid the most dangerous creatures. This holistic approach to threats illustrates the sophisticated environmental intelligence developed by early humans, integrating observation, prediction, and action into daily life. Ultimately, the presence of predators and environmental hazards transformed the Ice Age into a crucible of adaptation. Cavemen were forced to develop keen senses, strategic thinking, and communal coordination to survive. Every step in the snow, every fire maintained, and every shelter constructed was informed by the dual pressures of environmental risk and animal predation. These challenges honed physical, cognitive, and social skills, ensuring that only the most attentive, adaptable, and cooperative individuals could endure. The frozen wilderness, though perilous, became a landscape in which intelligence, foresight, and resilience were sharpened, producing humans capable of thriving amid extremes. Through constant vigilance, observation, and adaptation, early humans transformed a world filled with predators and hidden dangers into one in which survival was possible. Understanding animal behavior, environmental patterns, and group dynamics allowed cavemen to coexist with formidable companions in the frozen wilderness. These experiences strengthened cognitive abilities, social bonds, and practical skills, ensuring not only immediate survival, but the long-term evolution of human resilience. In the end, predators and winter hazards were not merely threats. They were teachers, shaping the intelligence, cooperation, and ingenuity that defined Ice Age survival. Winter survival in the Ice Age often demanded movement. Food scarcity, frozen landscapes, and shifting animal populations forced cavemen to undertake long, perilous journeys across snow-laden plains, icy rivers, and dense forests. Migration was not casual wandering. It was a strategic endeavor that required careful planning, knowledge of terrain, and constant vigilance. Early humans followed the seasonal movements of herds, tracking vital sources of meat, hides, and other resources essential for enduring the harsh months. Every journey was a test of endurance, observation, and social cohesion, with life and death hinging on the ability to adapt to constantly changing conditions. Cavemen learned to read the landscape for subtle signs of animal movement. Tracks in snow, broken branches, and disturbed vegetation provided clues about the direction and timing of herds. By studying these patterns, humans could anticipate where prey would be abundant, optimizing hunting efficiency while minimizing unnecessary exposure to cold and predators. Migration routes were often established over generations, refined by trial and error, and reinforced by knowledge passed down orally. These pathways were lifelines through a frozen world, linking food sources, water, shelter, and safe travel corridors into an interconnected survival network. Winter journeys were inherently dangerous. Deep snow, icy terrain, and unpredictable weather made travel exhausting and perilous. Travelers risked frostbite, hypothermia, and injury, and the constant presence of predators added an ever-present layer of threat. Cavemen mitigated these dangers by moving in groups, sharing body warmth, and taking turns scouting and leading. The collective knowledge and vigilance of the group often meant the difference between reaching a new hunting ground safely or becoming trapped and exposed to the lethal elements. Migration was therefore as much a social exercise as a physical one, requiring trust, communication, and cooperation. Strategic use of tools and fire played a crucial role in migration. Torches illuminated paths through darkness, allowed for early detection of predators, and could be used to signal group members across snowy expanses. Weapons provided protection against wildlife and enabled successful hunting during the journey, while portable shelters or temporary camps offered rest and warmth. The careful selection and transport of resources were essential, as carrying too much slowed progress, while carrying too little increased vulnerability. These logistical considerations reflect the advanced problem-solving and planning skills required for winter migration. Observation of environmental patterns guided decision-making during journeys. Changes in wind direction, snow density, and animal behavior provided critical information about impending storms or the presence of predators. Understanding these cues allowed groups to adjust routes, seek shelter, or alter hunting strategies. Early humans developed an intimate knowledge of their environment, linking natural phenomena with survival decisions. This constant reading of the landscape created a dynamic relationship with nature, transforming the journey itself into a learning experience that reinforced both practical and cognitive survival skills. Social cohesion was critical during migration. Families and tribes relied on each member to fulfill specific roles, some leading, others scouting, gathering, or carrying resources. This division of labor ensured efficiency, safety, and resilience. Communication, both verbal and nonverbal, helped maintain coordination across often difficult terrain, while collective decision-making ensured that the group could adapt to sudden changes or threats. Migration reinforced social bonds, with trust and cooperation forming the backbone of successful winter journeys. Those unable to integrate effectively into the group risked being left behind, emphasizing the inseparable link between social structure and survival. Migration also had a cultural and psychological dimension. Movement across the frozen landscape was accompanied by rituals, chants, or storytelling, which provided motivation, reinforced group identity, and reduced anxiety. The monotony and physical strain of long journeys could undermine morale, but communal practices maintained cohesion and focus. Ritualized behaviors, passed down through generations, ensured that knowledge about migration routes, animal behavior, and survival techniques was preserved, while also providing emotional resilience in the face of exhaustion and uncertainty. Successful winter journeys often led to encounters with new resources or previously unexplored terrain. Finding a herd, a sheltered valley, or a water source could transform the fortunes of a group, while failure to locate these resources could result in starvation or exposure. Cavemen learned to adapt quickly, scouting alternative routes, improvising temporary shelters, or altering hunting strategies. Each journey was both a practical challenge and a cognitive exercise, requiring observation, problem-solving, and strategic flexibility. The frozen world demanded constant adaptation, teaching early humans to respond intelligently to dynamic and hostile conditions. The constant tracking of animal herds shaped early humans' understanding of ecology and seasonal cycles. By observing movement patterns, birth cycles, and feeding behaviors, cavemen could anticipate resource availability and plan migrations accordingly. This knowledge enabled not only immediate survival, but also long-term strategic planning, linking winter behaviors with broader seasonal cycles. Understanding the rhythms of nature allowed humans to predict danger, optimize resource use, and synchronize social and cultural activities with environmental conditions, illustrating an advanced interplay between cognition, observation, and adaptation. In essence, migration and winter journeys were exercises in endurance, intelligence, and social coordination. They required careful observation of nature, strategic planning, tool use, and unwavering social cohesion. Every step in the snow was informed by past experience and collective knowledge, with survival dependent on both individual skill and group cooperation. Through these journeys, cavemen not only secured food and resources, but also reinforced community bonds, transferred knowledge across generations, and honed cognitive and physical abilities essential for life in one of Earth's harshest climates. Winter migrations exemplify the fusion of practical skill, environmental understanding, and social intelligence that defined Ice Age survival. By following the herds, reading the landscape, and maintaining cohesion, early humans navigated a frozen world filled with danger and uncertainty. These journeys transformed mobility into a survival strategy, social cooperation into a lifeline, and observation into an adaptive skill. In the vast, cold wilderness, migration was not merely movement. It was a deliberate, intelligent, and communal act that ensured survival, resilience, and continuity. In the harsh expanse of Ice Age winters, acquiring food was only half the battle. Preserving it was equally vital. Scarcity, extreme cold, and unpredictable weather meant that hunters and foragers needed to ensure a steady supply of nutrition across weeks, if not months. Early humans developed methods to store meat, plants, and other essential resources, creating primitive larders that transformed survival from a day-to-day struggle into a more manageable, sustainable system. These practices required ingenuity, careful observation, and an understanding of environmental conditions, allowing cavemen to buffer themselves against the unpredictability of winter. Meat from successful hunts was the cornerstone of winter nutrition, but without preservation techniques, it would quickly spoil or become inedible. Cavemen developed multiple strategies to extend the lifespan of meat, utilizing cold, smoke, and drying. In frozen regions, snow and ice acted as natural refrigerators, slowing bacterial growth and allowing meat to remain edible for extended periods. By carefully storing cuts in shaded or insulated areas, often protected from scavengers, humans created stable reserves that could be drawn upon during periods of hunting scarcity. This strategic use of the environment illustrates early humans' ability to harness natural processes to meet survival needs. Drying meat was another widely used preservation technique. Thin strips were hung near fires or in sheltered areas, allowing heat and smoke to remove moisture while also deterring bacterial growth. Smoke from fire acted as both a preservative and a deterrent to pests, combining practical function with early experimentation in chemistry and environmental manipulation. Dried meat was lightweight, portable, and long-lasting, making it ideal for hunting parties, migration, or periods of scarcity. The process required careful monitoring to ensure meat did not become overly charred or spoiled, reflecting an attentive, methodical approach to resource management. Fat and marrow were particularly valuable components of preserved food. These energy-dense elements provided critical calories during times of scarcity and could be stored or buried for later use. Cavemen recognized the nutritional importance of fat, particularly in sustaining body heat and energy during long, cold nights. By strategically selecting and storing these parts of animals, humans maximized the caloric value of each kill. This focus on resource efficiency underscores a sophisticated understanding of nutrition and the direct link between energy intake and survival in extreme climates. Plant-based foods, though less abundant in winter, were also preserved using various techniques. Roots, tubers, and nuts could be stored in insulated pits or covered with moss, snow, or leaves to prevent freezing or rot. These caches ensured that even during periods when hunting was difficult or prey scarce, groups had access to supplementary nutrition. Cavemen observed which plant species were most resilient to cold and which methods of storage prolonged edibility, demonstrating a keen awareness of botanical properties and seasonal cycles. These preservation techniques transformed otherwise ephemeral resources into reliable assets. Food storage was often communal and strategic. Families and small groups shared larders, dividing supplies to ensure equitable access and reduce conflict. Communal knowledge about where food was stored, how it was treated, and when it should be consumed reinforced trust and cooperation. Elders often oversaw these stores, guiding the allocation of resources and passing down preservation techniques to younger members. This organization ensured that food security became a shared responsibility, linking survival strategies directly to social cohesion and intergenerational learning. Psychological factors played a role in food preservation as well. Knowing that meat, fat, and plant resources were safely stored reduced anxiety, allowed better focus on other survival tasks, and helped maintain morale during the long, dark months. The existence of winter larders created a sense of security, transforming the fear of scarcity into manageable risk. Cavemen were able to allocate energy to hunting, shelter maintenance, tool production, and social activities, confident that essential sustenance was protected and available when needed. This psychological buffer was as critical as the physical act of preservation itself. Storage methods also reflected adaptability to environmental conditions. Natural ice, snow, and frozen soil provided insulation, while fires and smoke offered additional preservation options. Cavemen experimented with combinations of these techniques, developing flexible strategies tailored to location, climate, and resource availability. This trial-and-error approach allowed early humans to refine methods that ensured maximum effectiveness, demonstrating the role of observation, ingenuity, and environmental intelligence in survival. Security was a critical aspect of food preservation. Stored meat and plant resources attracted not only human competitors, but also scavengers like wolves, bears, and birds. Cavemen constructed elevated platforms, buried caches, or enclosed storage areas to protect supplies from theft and spoilage. These measures required foresight, careful monitoring, and cooperative effort, blending physical construction, strategic thinking, and social coordination. By safeguarding food stores, early humans reinforced both physical survival and social stability, ensuring that stored resources were available when most needed. In essence, food preservation and storage were lifelines in the winter landscape. By combining environmental awareness, innovative techniques, social cooperation, and psychological foresight, cavemen transformed scarce resources into sustainable systems. Each preserved piece of meat, cached tuber, or stored fat represented knowledge, labor, and foresight, embodying the intricate interplay between practical skill and survival strategy. Winter larders were more than simple storage. They were organized, intelligent, and communal tools that enabled early humans to endure one of the most unforgiving periods in Earth's history. Through preservation and storage, early humans mitigated scarcity, maximized resource efficiency, and ensured continuity across long, harsh winters. These practices reflect not only practical ingenuity, but also social intelligence, environmental understanding, and strategic foresight. In the frozen world of the Ice Age, The act of preserving food transformed uncertainty into stability, hunger into sustenance, and fear into manageable risk. Larders became a testament to the capacity of humans to adapt, innovate, and survive against extraordinary odds, shaping the very foundation of winter endurance and communal resilience. In the frozen landscapes of the Ice Age, fire was far more than a source of warmth. It was a tool, a weapon, a lifeline, and a symbol of human ingenuity. The ability to create, control, and sustain flames allowed early humans to survive in environments that would otherwise have been lethal. Fire provided heat during sub-zero nights, enabled the cooking and preservation of food, repelled predators, and illuminated dark caves and snow-laden forests. Mastery of fire transformed the environment from a realm of constant threat into a manageable space, giving humans a crucial edge over both predators and the unforgiving cold. Cavemen's relationship with fire began with observation. Natural occurrences such as lightning strikes, volcanic activity, or spontaneous combustion of dry material offered glimpses of fire's potential. Early humans learned to capture and maintain these flames, understanding the need for fuel, oxygen, and protection from wind and snow. Controlling fire required both knowledge and dexterity. Embers had to be nurtured, sparks carefully applied, and flammable materials selected with precision. Through repeated experimentation, early humans turned fleeting natural phenomena into reliable, life-sustaining energy sources. Fire provided essential warmth, protecting cavemen from hypothermia and frostbite. In the harshest conditions, temperatures could plunge to levels fatal to the unprepared, but a well-maintained fire allowed humans to maintain core body temperature while engaging in essential activities such as tool-making, food preparation, and social interaction. The hearth became the center of life, around which communities gathered, worked, and rested. Flames acted as a buffer against environmental extremes, creating a microclimate that transformed cold and danger into comfort and security. Cooking was another transformative application of fire. Raw meat, roots, and other foods could be boiled, roasted, or smoked, increasing nutritional value, digestibility, and safety. Cooking not only reduced pathogens, but also allowed calories to be absorbed more efficiently, providing energy critical for enduring extreme cold. Smoke from cooking fires also acted as a deterrent to insects and scavengers while preserving food for later consumption. Through these innovations, fire became a multifaceted survival tool, simultaneously sustaining life, protecting health, and enabling long-term planning. The psychological impact of fire was equally profound. Flames offered a sense of control, comfort, and security, transforming fear into focus. The light of a fire warded off darkness and uncertainty, creating a communal space where stories, knowledge, and rituals could flourish. Shared firelight reinforced social bonds, fostering cooperation and communication that were essential for group survival. In a world dominated by cold, isolation, and constant threat, the hearth became a symbol of resilience and ingenuity, shaping both practical and emotional aspects of life. Fire also served as a tool for protection against predators. Wolves, bears, and other carnivores were less likely to approach a sustained flame, and humans could use torches or controlled burns to create boundaries or scare animals away. Strategic placement of fires near shelters, caves, or encampments maximized their defensive potential, combining environmental awareness with practical innovation. Early humans learned to anticipate animal behavior and integrate fire into broader survival strategies, demonstrating foresight and adaptability in an environment where a single misstep could be fatal. Controlling fire required continuous attention. Maintaining embers overnight, replenishing fuel, and protecting flames from wind or snow were essential to ensure survival. Cavemen developed routines for fire maintenance, designating specific individuals for monitoring, feeding, and igniting fuel sources. Knowledge of different types of wood, bark, and resin allowed them to sustain flames for longer periods, optimize heat output, and even produce sparks for ignition. These practices illustrate not only practical skill, but also a systematic experimental approach to mastering a vital resource. Fire facilitated tool-making and innovation. Heat could harden wooden implements, improve the shape of stones, or soften hides for clothing. By extending the range of achievable tasks, fire enhanced the efficiency and effectiveness of early human labor. It also enabled the experimentation necessary for technological advancement, allowing humans to manipulate materials in ways that would have been impossible in the cold, dark environment. Fire was thus a catalyst for both survival and creativity, expanding the realm of what could be achieved under extreme conditions. Mobility and migration were also influenced by fire mastery. Early humans could carry embers across distances, ensuring access to warmth and cooking capability during long winter journeys. Portable fire management became a critical skill, allowing groups to establish temporary camps safely and maintain continuity in their routines despite the challenges of movement. The ability to control fire during travel underscored its centrality to survival, turning a static resource into a dynamic tool adaptable to changing circumstances. Culturally, fire became intertwined with rituals and social cohesion. Ceremonies around the hearth, storytelling by firelight, and the communal preparation of food reinforced group identity and transmitted knowledge. Firelight created an immersive environment, transforming mundane survival tasks into structured experiences that conveyed both practical and symbolic meaning. These practices strengthened morale, facilitated education, and reinforced the interdependence of group members, demonstrating that fire was as much a social and cognitive tool as it was a physical one. Ultimately, fire mastery exemplifies the combination of observation, experimentation, and adaptation that defined Ice Age survival. It allowed early humans to manipulate their environment, create comfort amid danger, and establish the foundation for both technological and social development. Through fire, cavemen gained control over temperature, nutrition, safety, and even psychological well-being, turning the frozen wilderness into a space where survival and ingenuity could coexist. Flames became a beacon of human resilience, illuminating the path from vulnerability to empowerment in the harshest conditions. By integrating fire into daily life, early humans demonstrated foresight, intelligence, and communal coordination. Fire enabled them to withstand the cold, preserve resources, protect against predators, and transmit knowledge across generations. It was a multifaceted tool that shaped both the practical and cultural dimensions of survival, highlighting the interplay between innovation, social cohesion, and environmental mastery. In the frozen world of the Ice Age, fire was not merely heat. It was life itself, a controlled force that transformed fear into safety and adversity into opportunity. Survival in the frozen landscapes of the Ice Age demanded more than fire, warmth, and social cohesion. It required mastery over tools and weapons that could secure food, defend against predators, and manipulate the environment. Early humans developed an array of implements, each crafted with skill and purpose, reflecting not only practical ingenuity, but also an understanding of materials, geometry, and functionality. From flint-tipped spears to bone needles, these tools transformed the frozen wilderness into a domain that could be navigated, exploited, and defended. They bridged the gap between human vulnerability and environmental mastery, allowing early humans to thrive where strength alone would have been insufficient. Hunting implements were among the most vital tools for winter survival. Spears, often tipped with sharpened stone or hardened bone, enabled humans to bring down large prey such as mammoths, reindeer, or bison. The design of these weapons required precision, balance, weight distribution, and aerodynamic form had to be considered to ensure effectiveness. Group hunting strategies integrated tools with coordinated tactics, allowing even smaller or weaker individuals to contribute meaningfully to the hunt. These weapons were not static. They were maintained, sharpened, and modified to suit different prey, demonstrating iterative problem-solving and adaptive design in response to environmental challenges. Projectile weapons, such as throwing sticks, spears, and later the atlatl, extended the human range and enhanced hunting efficiency. Accuracy and timing became essential skills, with hunters required to read animal behavior, anticipate movement, and coordinate with other group members. Mastery of these weapons demanded practice, patience, and acute observation, embedding cognitive development directly into survival tasks. By transforming distance into an advantage, projectile tools reduced risk while maximizing reward, illustrating the blend of strategic thinking, dexterity, and material knowledge essential for enduring harsh winters. Cutting and processing tools played a crucial role in resource utilization. Flint knives, scrapers, and stone blades allowed humans to butcher animals, prepare hides, and carve implements with precision. These tools enabled efficient use of every part of the kill, from meat and fat to bones, sinew, and antlers. Resource conservation was critical in winter, as every misused material could mean the difference between sufficiency and scarcity. Toolmaking itself was a form of survival planning, requiring foresight, experimentation, and the ability to select and modify raw materials to meet multiple needs. Clothing and shelter relied on specialized implements. Bone awls and needles allowed the sewing of animal hides into functional garments that provided insulation against freezing temperatures. Cordage made from sinew, plant fibers, or tendons enabled the construction of shelters, traps, and storage systems. These tools were extensions of human ingenuity, turning natural resources into protective and functional artifacts. The interplay between tool-making and environmental adaptation demonstrates the sophistication of early humans, who combined observation, creativity, and manual skill to survive extreme conditions. Defensive weapons were equally important. Clubs, axes, and spears provided protection against predators, rival human groups, and unexpected environmental hazards. Maintaining these tools required knowledge of materials and repair techniques, ensuring they remained effective in critical moments. The presence of defensive implements allowed early humans to move through the landscape with a measure of confidence, reducing vulnerability while enhancing strategic options. Weapons were therefore not merely offensive instruments, but also essential components of a comprehensive survival strategy. Traps and snares represented an advanced approach to resource acquisition. By constructing mechanisms that exploited animal behavior, cavemen could secure food with reduced risk and effort. These devices required planning, patience, and a deep understanding of the environment, as well as knowledge of local fauna. Traps could supplement hunting efforts, providing a reliable food source during periods when active hunting was less effective due to weather, scarcity, or the dangers posed by predators. This use of indirect methods demonstrates the cognitive and observational sophistication required to survive in the harshest conditions. Toolmaking was a communal activity, reinforcing social bonds and transmitting knowledge across generations. Skilled individuals taught younger members not only the techniques of crafting, but also the rationale behind design choices, strategic use, and maintenance. This apprenticeship system ensured continuity of knowledge, allowing innovations to accumulate over time and improving the survival prospects of entire groups. The social dimension of tool-making highlights the inseparable connection between practical skill, cultural transmission, and communal resilience in Ice Age survival. Psychological factors played a significant role in tool use and innovation. The confidence provided by well-crafted weapons and reliable implements reduced anxiety, enhanced focus, and allowed early humans to engage with their environment proactively. Knowing that they possessed the means to hunt, defend, and construct shelter empowered individuals and groups alike, fostering a sense of control over an otherwise unpredictable world. Tools were therefore both practical and psychological extensions of human capability, shaping behavior and reinforcing resilience. Environmental adaptation influenced tool design and selection. Early humans observed seasonal changes, snow and ice conditions, and animal behavior to refine their implements for optimal effectiveness. Different terrains demanded specific strategies. Ice, deep snow, or frozen rivers each required modifications to hunting, cutting, or construction tools. This iterative process of observation, experimentation, and adaptation illustrates the sophisticated intelligence of Ice Age humans, who continually integrated environmental knowledge into their technological repertoire. Ultimately, advanced tools and weapons were essential for survival, providing the means to secure food, protect against predators, manipulate the environment, and sustain life through long winters. They reflect a synthesis of observation, experimentation, craftsmanship, and strategic thinking, highlighting the inseparable link between human cognition and physical capability. These implements were more than objects. They were extensions of the human mind and body, enabling early humans to transform vulnerability into mastery, fear into agency, and the frozen wilderness into a navigable and survivable landscape. Through the development and refinement of tools and weapons, early humans demonstrated unparalleled adaptability, ingenuity, and resilience. Each spear, knife, or awl represented accumulated knowledge, careful observation, and the capacity to plan for both immediate needs and future challenges. In the frozen world of the Ice Age, tools were not mere artifacts. They were lifelines, empowering humans to endure extremes, dominate the environment, and lay the foundation for technological evolution that would shape the trajectory of human survival for millennia. In the frozen landscapes of the Ice Age, survival depended not only on food, fire, and weapons, but also on the ability to protect the body from extreme cold. Clothing and shelter were critical defenses against frostbite, hypothermia, and exposure, transforming a deadly environment into a livable space. Early humans used ingenuity and observation to turn animal hides, furs, bones, and natural materials into protective garments and structures, creating mobile and semi-permanent solutions that insulated against the harsh winter. These adaptations were not merely functional. They reflected intelligence, experimentation, and the ability to integrate knowledge of the environment, biology, and materials into survival strategies. Clothing was designed for warmth, mobility, and durability. Animal hides and furs provided insulation, while layering techniques maximized heat retention. Cavemen learned to stretch, cure, and sew hides into garments that covered the body effectively, including hands, feet, and the head, which are most vulnerable to freezing. Bone needles, awls, and sinew enabled precise stitching, producing flexible and resilient clothing that allowed movement while maintaining warmth. These garments were adapted to local conditions, reflecting careful observation of animal properties, seasonal changes, and the demands of daily activity. Footwear was particularly vital for mobility and protection. Snow, ice, and frozen terrain made travel perilous, and early humans developed moccasin-like shoes or wrappings from hides to shield feet from frostbite and injury. Proper footwear enabled hunters and foragers to traverse long distances safely, enhancing access to food, shelter, and resources. The development of foot coverings demonstrates early humans' ability to innovate using available materials, turning natural products into highly effective survival tools. Shelters complemented clothing, providing communal and personal protection against the elements. Natural formations such as caves, overhangs, and rock shelters were often used as winter homes, augmented with hides, branches, and snow to improve insulation. Cavemen understood airflow, thermodynamics, and snow insulation, strategically placing entrances, fires, and bedding to maximize warmth and minimize exposure to wind and cold. These shelters were not temporary conveniences. They were carefully engineered spaces designed for long-term survival, reflecting observation, problem-solving, and environmental adaptation. Constructing effective shelters required skill, cooperation, and planning. Large branches and bones could form structural frames, while animal skins and moss provided insulation and weatherproofing. Snow itself served as a natural insulator, with thick walls or coverings maintaining interior warmth despite sub-zero temperatures outside. Maintaining these shelters demanded routine care, reinforcing social cooperation, division of labor, and attention to detail. The combination of materials, design, and maintenance created environments where early humans could work, rest, and socialize safely amid extreme conditions. The hearth was central to both clothing maintenance and shelter function. Fires inside shelters allowed for drying wet clothing, curing hides, and providing warmth. Smoke was managed carefully to avoid suffocation, while maximizing heat retention. This integration of fire, clothing, and shelter demonstrates a sophisticated understanding of how different survival elements interact, turning seemingly independent tasks into coordinated systems that enhanced resilience. Clothing and shelter were also closely linked to cultural expression. Patterns, decoration, and symbolic adornments on garments may have reflected social identity, status, or group affiliation. Beyond practical function, these enhancements reinforce cohesion, communication, and shared identity within groups. The creation and use of decorated clothing and personalized shelters exemplified the integration of survival needs with cultural and social cognition, highlighting that early humans' adaptations were both functional and symbolic. Mobility influenced design. Portable shelters, lightweight clothing, and modular layering allowed groups to move efficiently during winter migrations. Garments could be adapted for hunting, travel, or sedentary activities, demonstrating flexibility and innovation. Similarly, temporary structures could be erected quickly in new locations, maintaining warmth and protection while minimizing labor. These mobile solutions allowed early humans to navigate a dynamic landscape without sacrificing safety, comfort, or survival potential. Knowledge of materials and techniques was transmitted across generations. Elders taught younger members how to select hides, cure furs, and construct clothing suited for specific temperatures or terrains. Shelter building skills, including structural planning, insulation, and fire management, were similarly passed down, ensuring continuity of expertise and enhancing group survival. This intergenerational transfer of knowledge reinforced social bonds and allowed incremental improvements over time, reflecting cumulative learning and adaptation in response to environmental challenges. Clothing and shelter were also vital for psychological well-being. Warmth, protection, and comfort reduced stress, anxiety, and fatigue, allowing early humans to focus on other survival tasks such as hunting, foraging, and social interaction. Knowing that one was insulated against the worst of winter's extremes provided confidence, morale, and mental resilience. These psychological benefits were as important as physical protection, emphasizing that survival in the Ice Age was both a practical and emotional endeavor. Ultimately, clothing and shelter transformed the frozen wilderness from a threat into a manageable environment. Through careful observation, experimentation, and social coordination, early humans created adaptive solutions that maximized warmth, safety, and mobility. These innovations were not static. They evolved through experience, environmental feedback, and cultural transmission, reflecting both intelligence and creativity. Winter survival was made possible by the combined power of protective garments, well-constructed shelters, and a knowledge of how to integrate these elements effectively into daily life. By mastering clothing and shelter, early humans demonstrated the profound interplay between environmental awareness, practical skill, and social learning. These adaptations were essential for enduring extreme cold, maintaining energy and health, and facilitating mobility and resource acquisition. The garments and shelters of the Ice Age were more than mere survival tools. They were evidence of human ingenuity, resilience, and the capacity to transform a hostile environment into a habitat capable of sustaining life, culture, and community. The Ice Age was one of the most unforgiving periods in human history, testing every dimension of early human life, from physical endurance and mental resilience to social organization and technological ingenuity. Winter survival demanded that cavemen not only endure the bitter cold, but also navigate a landscape fraught with scarcity, predators, and unpredictable environmental hazards. Yet, against these overwhelming odds, early humans developed strategies tools, and social systems that enabled them not only to survive but to thrive. The legacy of these adaptations extends far beyond mere survival. It offers profound insights into human resilience, ingenuity, and the enduring principles of adaptation that have shaped our species throughout history. Observation and environmental awareness were fundamental to Ice Age survival. Early humans closely monitored the movements of prey, changes in weather, and the behavior of predators to make informed survival decisions. They could interpret subtle cues in the snow, such as tracks, broken branches, or changes in texture, to anticipate danger or locate resources. This intimate understanding of their environment allowed cavemen to plan migrations, time hunts, and allocate resources effectively. Observation was not passive. It was a skill cultivated through necessity, shaping cognition and building a foundation for complex problem-solving that continues to inform modern understanding of human adaptability. Innovation and the ability to adapt were also central to winter survival. Cavemen developed a range of technologies, from flint-tipped spears and projectile weapons to fire, clothing, and shelters, that transformed vulnerability into capability. Each tool represented experimentation, refinement, and problem-solving. For example, the development of portable fire maintenance techniques allowed groups to travel long distances without losing access to warmth and cooking, while layering furs and developing insulated shelters maximize protection against freezing temperatures. These innovations highlight a critical lesson. Resilience depends on creativity, ingenuity, and the ability to respond dynamically to environmental pressures. Social cohesion and collective intelligence were equally vital. Winter survival required collaboration in hunting, foraging, tool-making, and defending against predators. Group coordination, division of labor, and shared knowledge ensured that individuals could maximize their efficiency and safety. Elders often served as repositories of knowledge, teaching younger members about migration routes, hunting strategies, fire management, and shelter construction. These social systems highlight the importance of communication, trust, and cooperation in human survival, demonstrating that individual skill alone was insufficient. Endurance in the Ice Age was a communal achievement. Cultural practices and rituals also played a crucial role in psychological resilience. The harsh winter months were physically demanding and mentally taxing, with long periods of darkness, isolation, and uncertainty. Storytelling around fires, shared rituals, and communal activities reinforced social bonds, reduced anxiety, and transmitted practical knowledge across generations. These practices were not merely ceremonial. They were adaptive strategies that supported morale, fostered cohesion, and ensured that critical survival knowledge persisted. The integration of culture into survival illustrates the sophistication of early humans, showing that they understood the interplay between mental well-being and physical endurance. Resource management was another pillar of survival. Cavemen had to carefully preserve and allocate meat, fat, and plant foods, balancing immediate needs against potential future scarcity. Food preservation techniques, including drying, smoking, freezing, and storage in insulated caches, reflected careful planning and foresight. These strategies minimized waste, maximized caloric efficiency, and ensured continuity during long periods when hunting was impossible. The principles of resource management developed during the Ice Age resonate today, offering timeless lessons about efficiency, sustainability, and the foresight necessary for long-term survival. Predator awareness and risk assessment were ingrained in daily life. Wolves, saber-toothed cats, bears, and other carnivores presented constant threats, requiring vigilance, observation, and proactive defensive strategies. Early humans learned to interpret tracks, sounds, and behavioral cues to avoid confrontation, often using fire, tools, or group tactics to reduce risk. This continuous engagement with danger sharpened situational awareness and decision-making, cultivating mental agility alongside physical survival skills. Understanding the environment as a dynamic system of threats and opportunities was a crucial skill, teaching early humans the importance of anticipation and preparation. Endurance and patience were cultivated through necessity. The extended, bitter winters demanded long-term planning, strategic movement, and persistent effort. Cavemen had to balance immediate survival tasks, such as hunting, gathering, and shelter maintenance, with longer-term goals like preserving food, planning migrations, and maintaining tools and fire. This required sustained attention, careful prioritization, and adaptive thinking. By engaging in these complex tasks, early humans developed problem-solving abilities and cognitive flexibility that underpinned their evolutionary success. The Ice Age also reinforced the importance of environmental adaptation. Humans had to learn not merely to endure, but to harmonize with their surroundings. Knowledge of snow conditions, ice thickness, seasonal migrations of prey, and plant availability allowed early humans to manipulate their behavior and resources to maximize survival chances. This adaptive mindset fostered a sophisticated understanding of ecosystems, demonstrating that human success is rooted in observation, learning, and the capacity to modify strategies according to environmental feedback. Clothing, shelter, and fire mastery offer lessons that transcend mere physical protection. Each of these elements exemplifies human ingenuity, foresight, and integration of multiple survival dimensions. Clothing insulated the body, shelters provided protection and communal space, and fire offered warmth, light, and defense. Together, they illustrate the principle of layered, multifaceted survival strategies, using complementary approaches to address complex challenges. This holistic thinking, born of necessity, continues to inform modern design, engineering, and problem-solving approaches. The cumulative knowledge and practices of Ice Age humans underscore the value of knowledge transmission. Survival depended on learning from elders, sharing discoveries within groups, and passing skills across generations. Oral traditions, hands-on teaching, and communal experience ensured that survival strategies were preserved and refined over time. This process of cultural inheritance highlights the interdependence of practical skill, cognition, and social structures in human evolution, emphasizing that adaptability and resilience are as much cultural as they are biological. Psychological resilience was as important as physical endurance. The harsh winters tested courage, patience, and mental stamina. Facing predators, scarcity, and the unrelenting cold required not only tactical skill, but also emotional fortitude. Early humans learned to manage fear, cultivate hope, and maintain group morale, often using rituals, storytelling, and shared activity to reinforce psychological stability. These strategies highlight the inseparable link between mental and physical survival, illustrating that resilience is a holistic trait encompassing mind, body, and social environment. Finally, the legacy of Ice Age winter survival demonstrates the interplay between human innovation, environmental mastery, and social intelligence. Every tool crafted, every fire maintained, and every shelter built represents a solution to complex challenges that demanded foresight, cooperation, and creativity. The lessons extend far beyond prehistoric life, offering guidance on resourcefulness, community cohesion, adaptability, and resilience. By studying these strategies, modern humans can appreciate the enduring principles that underpin survival, innovation, and success in the face of adversity. In conclusion, the Ice Age left a profound legacy. Cavemen winter survival strategies showcase observation, adaptability, innovation, social cooperation, resource management, psychological resilience, and environmental mastery. These lessons provide timeless insights into human ingenuity, offering practical guidance for navigating challenges in extreme environments or complex modern contexts. The ability of early humans to transform fear into strategy, scarcity into planning, and environmental threat into opportunity exemplifies the remarkable resilience of our species. Their legacy is not only historical, it is a blueprint for understanding and applying the principles of endurance, intelligence, and communal strength that continue to define human survival today.